That's Eilen Jewell and her band performing Crooked River, a tune from her brand new album, Get Behind the Wheel. We found Eilen in Boise, Idaho, not far from Crooked River, and talked to her about making what she calls her favorite album so far.
I really like the record. I think it's probably my favorite one so far, and I'm not just saying that, for the sake of advertisement.
Right.
It's, I felt like I really needed this one, and it came at a really good time for me, and I mean a really hard time, but a good time to be self-expressive. And I have a lot to say, and kind of experimenting with slightly new sounds. But I guess I do that from time to time. But this one just feels kind of more open-hearted, there's more freedom in it, and I'm kind of in this place now where I don't really take as much for granted as I used to. During the pandemic there, I was, there was a time when I was wondering if I would even make another record or go on another tour, So I'm very thankful that I got to do
Right. What would you do if you weren't touring and making records?
I think I would probably be either working at a library. Sometimes I fantasize about that, or working in a bookstore. I really like books, and so yeah, maybe when it's time to retire, I'll work in the library.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in It's a Wonderful Life, where the woman is destined to be a librarian. It's like she's an old maid. It's a horrible ending to her.
What a terrible fate.
What a fate, yes.
I worked in a library in college, and I really liked it. I mean, it had boring moments, but what doesn't,
Exactly. So was this, with all the stuff that happened in and around your life and around the world, was this an easy record for you to make, or was it difficult for you?
It was, in some ways, it was a mix. It's always kind of hard to put anything out there into the world. It's there's a lot of internal resistance that I have to fight through. I'm very shy by nature, and I often kind of find myself wondering how the hell I got into such a public public career. How did I end up with a public persona? I'm like one of the most private people in the world, but I think that's probably what keeps me interested in it. It's that that kind of I'm constantly butting up against all my own internal naysaying, and forcing myself to face all these fears, which is extremely uncomfortable. It's a horrible process, and while it's happening, I just hate it.
Right. Does it get any easier since you've been making records for a while now?
No, it really doesn't.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I wish I could say that, that I'm evolving in that respect, but no, it remains hard. I guess what does get easier though is kind of the nuts and bolts of making an album. I know what musicians I want to work with, and I know which studio to go to, and what snacks to bring on, the day of recording. But the internal stuff remains. And I think what's shifting though, maybe about it, is that I'm kind of learning to accept it, as just part of what makes me tick.
Gotcha. Now you co-produced this record with Will Kimbrough. So how did two of you work together on this record? Do you guys have specific roles that you take on, or you just kind of wing it?
Yeah. So the roles that we took on were, I had never worked with a producer really before. So I was really curious about doing that. But also at the same time, nervous about it because my band and I are just such a well-oiled machine. And, I think they were nervous too about bringing in another cook in the kitchen. So the way we worked around that was that my band and I laid down the basic tracks together. And so we kind of formed I guess the skeleton of each song, where the solos would go and the melodies and the lyrics. And I mean, the melodies and lyrics are all my doing, but the band kind of helps. They determine what they're going to play, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Will Kimbrough is just this like genius multi-instrumentalist. So I flew to Nashville to work with him, and he just had all these great ideas about additional instruments to lay down. So
right.
In a way, he ended up being like soloist extraordinaire, but he was also producer in the sense that there were songs that needed to be kind of edited, like shortened, truncated in such a way that they made more sense. And he just worked his magic with that. And he knew Fats Kaplan, the pedal steel player, so he got him in. And that was
he the guy playing on Winnemucca?
Winnemucca, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see, there's winners and there's losers, and the signals fade. But me and you, honey, got it made in the shade. 'Cause we know just how this game is played. Got our money on each other and each other's saved.
So why have you written a song about a little town in Nevada?
Well, I have this strange little, like, you could almost say it's like a crush on that town. Like a bizarre fascination. I'd always driven through it for just most of my life because it's on the way to a lot of things, but it's 4 hours south of Boise, so it's not quite far enough to really like need to stop much yet. So I always kind of wondered what it was all about. And then my band and I got booked there to play it's called the Martin Hotel, and it's a Basque restaurant. And they just like spoil the bands that play there, and they feed them this huge like family style Basque meal with carafes of wine. And yeah, so I just kind of fell in love with it the first time we played there. And then during the pandemic, I took a solo road trip through there, and just because I kind of missed that. I think I missed the family style meal.
Right. Yep.
So I probably shouldn't have been there because they were pretending like the pandemic wasn't really happening. But I wore my mask. I was like the only one there wearing a mask. And I sat at a big table with strangers, and we feasted on Basque food and drank wine together. And it's just like just this poignant, beautiful memory. And at that particular time in my life, I was just full of uncertainty and grief and longing. But I was just being out there alone in the desert and kind of reconnecting a little bit with people. Just it was so transformative that I found myself writing the whole time I was there.
Yeah, cool. Now I noticed in some of the songs there's like, I'm noticing, and maybe I'm wrong, little nods to classic moments on other records from like the 60s and whatever. For instance, in Crooked River, it kind of starts out with this Phil Spector Ronettes drum beat. And is that your doing? Is that what you were doing?
totally. That was my idea. I said I wanted to start with like a "Be My Little Baby"
Yeah.
drum beat, and I don't know why, but just do it, and we'll see how it sounds. And people seem to like it well enough that we kept it. But yeah, I'm just totally unapologetically a 60s person, like just through and through. I have branched out more in recent years. I've been listening to more modern music, but that's just where my heart and soul gravitate towards. So like, blues from the 60s, country music, like rock and roll, garage, like everything to me sounded better in that era.
Right. And do you have anything you want to say about the song itself, about Crooked River?
Crooked River itself. Well, let's see. I wrote it. It's about a real place in Idaho, so I wrote it with that place in mind. And it was a place that I went to quite a bit during the pandemic for to find a sense of solace.
Right. Okay. Now, I think my favorite track on the record is "Could You, Would You," which also, to me, has this guitar signature or figure that reminds me of something else. And I can't decide if it sounds like "Here Comes My Girl" by Tom Petty or "Here Comes the Night" by them. So
Well, it is a them song, so it's a song by them.
Oh, it is by, I didn't know that. Well, there you go.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Very good.
I wish I wrote that one. That would one of my faves.
Because I didn't have the writing credits or anything, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Thing to listen to. So okay. So where did you dig that one up from?
I've been a fan of them for many, many years, and we covered a them song on I think my third album, I want to say. And so yeah, I mean, I feel comfy with them.
Right.
Just a huge fan. And that one, I love there's an innocence to it. It's like just this kind of hopeful, kind of innocent love that appeals to me. Because it sounds like it has such an edge, but the lyrics are just so sweet.
Right. Now, speaking of edge, I don't know how much you put into the thought process of the running order of the record, but it seems to get very dark at the end and moody. Is that what you had in mind? Did you want to leave people with a certain feeling after listening to it? I mean, the last song is called "The Bitter End." So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I really wanted to portray like the full range of what I've been going through in the past few years. And it starts out really hopeful with, feelings of like kind of triumph and transcendence. And it ends with some bitterness and obviously and some cynicism. But I guess they're not meant to be, linear like that. It's kind of meant to be played sort of in a loop because I guess what I'm getting at there is that life is all of the things. A lot of my albums tend to be, they skew towards the sad end of human experience. I gravitate towards sadder songs. And so this one does experiment more with some joy and happiness, but yeah, I guess it's kind of meant to encompass all of it. And I think it's because for me, like I like singing about everything, really. That's kind of what I'm realizing. I used to hate happy songs, and now I'm realizing that that there's a place in my heart for happy songs too, that it's all sacred,
Right. So I get the feeling this is kind of a record that you had to get out of your system. So with that in mind, are you thinking in terms of what you're going to do next?
I keep returning to this idea of a pretty straight ahead, folk album,
Uh-huh.
which that's sort of where I started. Boundary County, my first album, it's pretty folky, but this one I think would be more like traditional folk. And I know it's not the most original idea in the world, but I really love the comfort food of like, like early Woody Guthrie and early Bob Dylan and folk songs that don't even have, they're just like traditional. They don't
Yep,
even have
they're
an author.
in the ether. Who knows where
Yeah.
they came from?
Yeah.
They've always been with us.
Donovan too. I keep threatening to do an entire album of Donovan covers.
That would be something. That would be unique. See, nobody's done that yet.
Maybe I'll
You
go
just have
that
to do
route.
Goo 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 Barabajaggle. That's my favorite Donovan song.
Oh
You know
yeah,
that?
Barabajaggle. That's a good one.
It's a wild record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. And so when the record comes out, you're hitting the road, I assume, and playing some gigs. Do these songs, do you look at them as kind of taking different form when they're being performed, or?
Yeah. They tend to get more intense, I've noticed.
Right.
We lean into them a little harder. We just, we get excited when we have an audience. We've tried doing a live, the first song on the album.
Yep.
We're going to try to add that. We haven't performed it in front of an audience yet. But that'll be interesting to try to do in front of people, because that was just something that we were kind of playing around in the studio. And I think we just did it in one take, and the guys didn't even know how the song went. And I was literally like dictating to them through the headphones. Okay, now build it up here. And then they're just like, okay. So I won't have the headphones to tell them what to do next. So we're gonna work on that and figure out how
It's
to.
got a pretty cool guitar sound on that record, or particularly on that track as well. It's kind of
Yeah,
clangy and twangy at the same time.
Yeah. Will Kimbrough overlaid some really cool slide guitar. So he won't be with us live,
Right.
unless we can rope him into it. But he's often with Emmylou Harris, so might be
I
hard.
hate when that happens.
Yeah.
I just spoke to, who is it, Rodney Crowell, and he said he spent Emmylou's birthday, they went to a baseball game in Nashville together. I thought that was kind of cool.
Fun. Oh, that'd be so fun. Wow.
Anyway, all righty. Well, good luck with the record. Thank you very much for spending time talking to me, and hopefully you'll make it down to New Zealand sometime soon, because we need to see you again.
Yeah, that'd be great. Fingers crossed.